Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me, Peggy. Please tell me your full name, where you were raised, and a little bit about your family of origin.
My name is Peggy Price. I'm a reverend and also have a doctorate of divinity. So I'm Reverend Dr. Peggy Price is my formal name. I live here in Southern California in Huntington Beach. And I am just a child of the United States. I'm a military brat. My dad was in the Army during World War II. So I was born on an Army base in North Carolina. And then we moved from base to base during the war. And then after the war, my dad got into public utilities, and he was very good at what he did. And so he got promoted and transferred a lot. We lived everywhere from New York to Honolulu during my growing up years. And so I've seen a lot of the country and made a lot of friends across the country. But this is my home. California's been my home since 1967, and I'm not leaving.
What, if any, religion were you raised in?
I was raised as a Protestant, and most of the time in the Presbyterian Church, because my mother's side of the family is descended from John Knox, who was one of the earliest founders of the Presbyterian Church. And then later in life, I found what is now known as Centers for Spiritual Living, but was known as Church of Religious Science when I found it.
Do you have post-secondary education?
I went to Northwestern University. I don't hold a bachelor's degree, but I went there for 3 years. And then I went on to study interior design in a 2-year program, which I completed with a certificate and became an interior designer. And then I went on to ministerial school, which was a 3-year program. And at the time I graduated, we did not have a master's degree yet, but it's the equivalent of a master's degree. It's called a fellowship. And now we do have a master's degree. So, and then I was given an honorary doctorate for my work in interfaith activities.
Why is interfaith so important to you that you've not only served on the Huntington Beach Interfaith Council for so many years, but you've also been its president 3 times?
I'm of the mind that we all inhabit this planet together, all of us. Wherever we're from, whoever we are, whatever the skin color is, whatever our ethnicity, whatever our religion is. But then I also find that often religion is probably one of the most separating things that we deal with in life and in society. I have seen religion exclude. I've seen religion justify war, justify violence. I've seen religion justify the horrible treatment inhumane treatment of other human beings. And I felt that if I could just make a little bit of a difference by fostering understanding, by listening and learning, and by educating wherever I can, I might be able to help alleviate some of that. And it's very important to me. It feels almost like it's something I came in with from wherever I came from, that this was one of the things that I'm here to do.
Was there some particular thing that you did that caused the Interfaith Council to refer to you as a peacemaker?
It's an award that we give on an annual basis to someone in the organization or outside the organization that we feel has promoted peace and understanding. It's possible because I have been involved in things like United Religions Initiative Global Peace Assembly in India in 2000, whatever year that was, 2007 or 8, same year as the Mumbai attacks. I've traveled to Turkey with an organization that is now known as Pacifica Institute. Pacifica in Turkish means peace. Traveled 2 years ago to the Parliament of the World's Religions. I do as much as I can to reach out internationally. And also I think it's because of the work that I did within the council at times when we were in places of growth to work to diffuse differences. And I still try to do that as much as I can and practice what I try to preach, which isn't always easy.
So are you still serving on the Huntington Beach Interfaith Council?
Yes, I'm still a member. At the time being, I'm working with a group that is looking at ways that we can teach compassion to school-age children, to teach them about diversity, not only religious diversity, but all diversity, because we have to have a secular platform to work from with the kids. But to accompany the idea of the anti-bullying programs that are going into the schools, we also feel the kids need to learn about diversity and what is the beauty of diversity. What are all the good points of diversity, rather than things they might learn from people that are not as enlightened, perhaps.
Please tell us about your involvement with the Pacifica Institute. What have you done with them, and where has it led you?
I first got to know them because of the Interfaith Council, because they had people that came, and at that time they were called Global Cultural Connections. And one day I got a telephone call inviting me to go on a trip to Turkey, which was just sort of out of the blue. And I talked to one of the people who had been at the council meetings and went to a meeting to find out more about the trip, signed up, and later I thought, I don't know these people at all, and I'm going off to a foreign country all by myself. What am I doing? But it was an absolutely wonderful experience. And I went in 2005 with a group mostly from the San Fernando Valley. But I was the only female clergy. And normally I'm the only one that's from a New Thought organization because we're not that well known. So I was the only one from New Thought. I was the only female clergy. There were several male clergy, some with their spouses, some not. And we traveled around Turkey together in a little van and visited so many fascinating places, including Ephesus and including Cappadocia. Went to Konya to see where Rumi had his school of whirling dervishes, Istanbul to see Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque, and meet with students from schools, meet with people that represented the press and other writers and journalists. We were guests in the homes of Turkish families. We were brought to homes for dinners on different occasions. We really got to get a sense of the culture, the people, and also the teachings of Fethullah Gulen, who is their spiritual leader. His movement is one that is very much focused on dialogue as a pathway to peace, dialogue and education as a pathway to peace.
So he's the one he's the thought leader that's led to the Turkish foreign relations policy of friendship with all our neighbors.
Exactly. Yes. He is the thought leader behind that. Exactly. I don't know if he would directly claim responsibility, but definitely that's the philosophy, that they create friendship rather than enemies. And I wish more of us would adopt that philosophy.
It's not always easy to maintain friendship with people who are saying and doing mean things.
That's true. I think one of the things that I've learned is once you learn another person's story, you cannot help but find a place where you have common ground. And I think that's part of the work that Pacifica does, is to really make a space for us to hear each other's stories. I think that institute sets an incredible example for how we can create more peace.
How did you get involved with Sarah, and why?
Sarah is a women's organization. It's called Spiritual and Religious Alliance for Hope. It was started by a delightful woman whom you've interviewed named Sandy Hart, who decided after 9/11 that she would start a living room dialogue in her home and invited people from the local mosque, the local synagogue, and one of the local churches to come and talk. Out of that, Sarah was born. And out of that also was that trip to Mexico where they built the house. The movie On Common Grounds talks about the three different traditions coming together to build a house. I first met Sandy, I think it was at actually an Interfaith Council event. I'm even blanking on where we met because I feel like I've known her all my life. And we began to connect and talk, and she invited me to come to a Sarah meeting, which I did, and I was so impressed with the women that I met there, and just the fun we had. In fact, I went right after my Turkey trip, so I had some things I could share also. Then she asked me to be on her advisory council, which I have served on ever since. And we've traveled to India together, Australia together. We talk about we're going to go to Belgium for the Parliament in 2014 together. We just have become wonderful friends. But the work of Sarah is really about, again, breaking down all the walls that appear to be differences and bringing us together as human beings to do service, to educate, to just simply practice what's possible in the world, which is also what happens with the interfaith councils, is that when we work together, we don't see each other as Muslim or Jewish or Sikh or Hindu. We see each other as human beings with common goals, common visions, working together to bring about something greater than what we can do by ourselves. And Sarah very much does that. It's a great organization.
Do you think it's advisable that Sarah be a female-only organization?
Well, we get asked that from time to time. And I think that the reason that it probably works best as a female organization is because in some cultures, women in relationship to men can be very uncomfortable. And it would make it difficult for us to mingle the way that we do together as women. For instance, in Islam, you can't reach out and touch the hand of someone other than your husband.
They can't take their scarf off their hair.
Can't take their scarf off, can't let down their hair and just be. But as the girls, we can do that. We can sit and giggle together, and we can sit and tell our stories together. And it's definitely not an anti-men organization because we love our men, and we don't in any way want to exclude them in the sense of having this be an organization that's only for women. But it does work better for us to just be together.
What would you say the greatest takeaway you have from your participation in the United Religions Initiative?
URI, and Sarah is a part of URI, is a worldwide organization that has these circles that allow different groups to come together. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was at the Global Peace Assembly, meeting people, particularly people from Africa. I seem to have the most deeply rich experiences with them. Having people from Africa share with me what their circumstances are, and then to see the incredible courage and the incredible faith and the incredible strength these people have who are encountering circumstances that I find totally unthinkable, and yet really having a belief that they can do something to affect change. I'd like to tell a story if I could. I met a man, one of the first days that we were at the conference, I met a man from Uganda who was a Baptist minister, and he told me that he was working in one of the refugee camps in Uganda that had 1.2 million people in the camps.
It's a big city.
It's a big city. And I asked him, how in the world do you find food? And he said, we get food. He said, it's mostly grain. He said, but part of the problem that we have is sometimes we have food, but we don't have fuel and we can't cook it. And I remembered that in Jewish World Watch, there was a program for the women